Hey, welcome to our Friday Facebook Live. I am so excited today because we're welcoming Gordon Kelly, and he owns, well, let me just read his bio because that makes it so much easier. Gordon has been involved in technology for almost his entire life. He's always been the go-to guy in the office to fix computers. However, he's also an entrepreneur who founded Theater Profile, which is a tech company that analyzes ticket sales trends and productions to predict future sales for theaters. With the onset of COVID-19 and the move to work from home, he saw a need in the market and formed an IT consulting company that works with small businesses. So with a newfound love to work from home, he's helping small companies navigate the tools and setup needed to keep a team productive in and out of the office, keeping their equipment secure, tracked, and up to date.
Yeah.
It's Giggly Gordon. Thank you for coming.
Thanks, okay. It's fun.
New nickname. All right. So we've got some things that we want to cover, but I think the most important is as things have changed, as people have moved from the office to home, the way we treat our technology has changed some. And I think that that was really one of the things that kind of made you start your company. Is that right?
Yeah, it's because tools were out there to use to make it easy on everybody, and no one knew they were there. So I'm kind of showing people, these are the tools you can use. It makes it easy. Everything's simple, clean. And it's not like the old days when you used to have a VPN server, you had a local server, and now you can use simple tools. Yeah, exactly. Simple tools that basically you turn it on and you work.
Well, I think let's just look at what happened last March. So we started to go into lockdown with coronavirus. And one of the women on our team, her sister-in-law works for a grocery store chain. And she was deemed, as the CFO, she was deemed the only essential employee in finance, and everybody else worked from home. And she scrambled for 2 weeks to issue everybody computers. And you can kind of issue computers a couple of different ways. And I think the way most of us did it was, here, take a computer, go home, right? It's kind of, I mean, what did you guys do, right? Here, take a computer. And you say that that's not the way to do it.
Not really, because you want those computers set up, because there's settings and everything. It's easier for the employee just to get it, go home, and everything's ready to roll.
Okay,
also
wait,
in the
wait,
rush.
Let's start with, we don't know where our equipment is.
Right, there was also the rush back when all this started, is people were buying computers and having them shipped immediately, no setup, nothing else. The employee was stuck with a computer and they didn't know how to set it up.
Yeah.
They didn't know the passwords to log into anything. IT people did, they were overwhelmed.
Yeah, so I think one of the first things as you look at companies, so let's be frank, this is one of the first things you did for us, because you have been helping us for a few months now, is you set up a thing called MDM. Well, actually, let's back up. Before you did MDM, you really took a inventory of everything we owned.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah. Took the inventory to know what was needed. And then the mobile MDM, which is mobile device management, and then knew what kind of MDM was needed so that we can monitor all that equipment.
Yeah, but wait, hold on. Let's back up to the taking the inventory. So you got to realize we are not tech people, right? Not tech, like this is not our world. All right, so let's back up taking the inventory. I think one of the things that really surprised me is, so we are a remote company. We've always been a remote company. We've always had our employees working at home. And in all of this, we found out that one of our employees, so we use Surface tablets, and found out that one of our ladies did not have the pen that we use so that we can write and annotate things when we're talking to clients. She didn't have the cover that had the keyboard on it. And she didn't have a plug. She couldn't plug the darn thing into the wall. She's been working like this for like 4 or 5 months. How common is that?
Very common, because people don't like to speak up unless they're having a major problem. But it's better to get in front of it. If someone knows what they have, if IT, or I know what people have and don't have, I can fix it before anybody knows it's a problem.
Right. So now we know that she's missing those things. Yeah. You actually tracked them down. They were at another.
I found them. Yeah.
They were at another employee's house. So we're working on that. So the first thing you did with us is you went in and you did an inventory and you figured out who owned what. And then you put those stickers on everything.
I did put stickers on all your stuff.
I
I know you
swear.
love those stickers.
Every time I turn over a piece of equipment, there's a sticker on it. By the way, I don't think the microphone has a sticker.
Oh, I'm working on that one.
Okay. And then once you got the inventory back from all the employees, you sent them stickers and said, this goes
Yep.
on the computer, this goes on the keyboard, this, right?
Everything's got a sticker. So also there's now a database that knows what everything is and where everything is. So if someone calls and says this doesn't work, I now know what it is, because there's different versions, different varieties of various things, like they're all different surfaces. And now I know, so I'm not asking them.
And we have sent out, like, for instance, with the cameras, some people have the camera that we're using today. Some people have other cameras. Like, there've been
Different varieties of all
different
the
everything.
equipment.
Right. And I think that's interesting, because sometimes I'm talking to somebody on Zoom and I'm like, don't like the way their camera looks. And I realize that it's a camera that we don't like. So now we know what we don't like and we won't buy that again.
Yeah, because now there's a record of it. There's a note on that device saying, don't buy this.
Right. All right. So then the next step you implemented was the MDM, which is the mobile device management. And I'm just going to cut you off at the pass and say my favorite part about the MDM is that you can turn a computer into a brick. So that is one of my big concerns. Like, I have employees at home using my technology and accessing our clients' information. And if something were to go wrong with an employee,
Or not just the employee, the computer. What if someone it's stolen or lost? I mean, there's lots of reasons why the computer needs to be turned into a brick.
okay, I have left a Surface on an airplane before.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, with the mobile device
Shockingly,
management.
American Airlines did not find that, or British Airways, or whoever. They were like, yeah, we never saw that. I'm like, really?
Yeah, I know that's your big thing. Is like, if something goes wrong with the computer, we can turn it into a brick, which means won't work, won't turn on. If anybody tries to access it, it'll wipe itself. All the data is secure because it's gone.
Yeah.
But also with that, all the software everyone uses and everyone should be using, I can keep all that software up to date. So everyone's using the exact same version of the software. There's no variances. You know, if like you use password software, well, different variations of the password software behave differently, but now everyone uses the exact same thing because the mobile system makes sure that everybody's consistent.
Well, and I think that's great. One of the things you talked to me about is that there are updates that come all the time. And with MDM, you're able to go in and just automatically have an update overnight while none of us are paying attention.
Oh yeah. And I can add new software if it's needed with the mobile. I can just say load this. Also, the plus side is sometimes when you get a new release of a software, it's not the best. You want to wait a month or two. So you can actually set protocols on that so that you don't get the new software on day 1, you'll get it on day 30 or day 60.
Dude, are you talking about the RoboForm update where like they moved our cheese this week and everybody came undone?
Everybody came undone. I got lots of calls about that.
Nobody could find
likes
anything. Yeah, that was not RoboForm. You should not have done that update. You made no friends in our company.
Yeah, it didn't go over very well.
So one of the other things that I think is interesting about the MDM and the inventory is that you know exactly which computer we have and you can really go in and look at the setup, right?
To a point. But what is really helpful if someone calls and says, I have a problem, instead of me having to say, all right, you open this, what's your serial number, what version of Windows are you running? I can open a screen and it tells me.
And you can see all that.
Yeah, this is the serial number. And if I said, if it's a big problem, then when I have to call Microsoft and say, we need a replacement or we need this done on this computer, I've got all the information in front of me.
Yeah.
There's no going back and forth.
I got to tell you, our calendars are full enough. We don't even want to deal with that. And so we did have a computer go down today in the middle of a call with client. The poor CFO. Luckily, I happened to be on the call, so I took over seamlessly. But you didn't have to ask her a whole lot of questions. You had to ask her what was happening at the time when there was a problem. And then that was it, because from this point, you're working with Microsoft to figure out how to resolve that, right?
To a point, yeah, because the biggest thing in IT is everyone always asks, what operating system you're running, what applications you're running, what versions are you running? Well, I now know everybody's versions and operating systems, so I just asked, what were you doing?
Right,
and that's it.
And that was great for her because her computer turned itself into a brick. So like she couldn't even have pulled up her version or anything about her software because
Oh yeah, and then
it was black.
and we
It was just a big black screen.
we can reset. She actually got up and running, but also from the MDM, I can reset it reset it from afar. I just push a couple of buttons and her computer would reset.
That's awesome. Okay, so here we are. We have moved. We have companies that have moved to a remote setting. There was always kind of one person in the office who, when something went wrong, you called.
And I was always that guy.
And you were always that guy.
Even when I didn't do IT officially, I was always the guy.
You're
The
always
printer
the guy.
won't work. Can you fix it? Yeah, sure.
You're like, yes, fine. I'm going to go for it. I think that a lot of companies have been struggling because now that guy's not there anymore, right?
Well, it's habit. The guy was there. You just walked down the hallway and said, "Hey, this doesn't work." But now I'm the guy on the phone. Like
Right now,
I'm on
you
all
do
your
it on the
people's
phone.
speed dial. There's a problem. They push the button and it calls me, and I am the guy down the hall. Except I'm in a different city sometimes.
Yeah, but that is, I love that. You know, when I was on the call with our CFO today and her computer went down, she's like, okay, what do I do? Do I need to restart it? I was like, you need to call Gordon. And she kept talking to me about it. I'm like, not my problem. I don't do this.
And you shouldn't have to do it. I'll deal with that stuff and I can
Yeah.
fix it way faster. Like if you're not used to this, and one plus side is now dealing with a bunch of people's stuff, I can solve the problems a lot faster because someone else might have had the same problem and
Because you've seen it.
I've seen it, instead of you doing hours of research on Google
Mhm.
and not going, well, what does MDM mean? Or what's a VPN? Or what's this? And then look it up. I can just fix it for you.
Yeah, because I gotta tell you,
Geek talk.
you're throwing out geek talk. I'm gonna do geek talk. Okay, so one of the other things, and you alluded to this a minute ago, that I think is fascinating. Okay, people, how many of you have gotten a computer in and you've had to set it up? And you're going through and you're trying to get the Outlook set up and you're trying to get, you know, your Zoom downloaded and you're trying to get, so we use Dropbox, we're trying to get Dropbox down and it takes you hours.
And all the passwords that go with them.
All the passwords and you know, we've really beefed up our number of employees this year. So you take care of all of that.
I do it all. A brand new computer shows up, I boot it up, I load everything that person needs, I set up all their profiles, everything else, and I ship it out to them and they get it, turn it on, and go to work.
I mean,
No setup needed.
out of
Just
the
done.
box.
Out of the box.
As far as they're concerned.
Yeah, I rewrap it. It looks pretty again. I put the plastic back on it and they get it and it looks like that.
I know you're a little
Stuff.
neurotic about it. Like they can't even
Yeah.
tell you've touched it, can they?
Not really.
Except that it works.
Right. And now your MDM is fully in place. I can actually do that from the mobile management system. So they get a new computer out of the
really?
box directly from Microsoft, and I've done the setup in it's what they call blueprints or templates. So it knows what to load, what certain things are, how to do it, and they just need to put the passwords in and go.
Okay, so that's really stinking cool. So MDM, how much does it cost a month? Is this like hideously expensive? Because it doesn't sound like something that small companies can afford.
It can be hideously expensive, but it doesn't need to be. I mean, it depends on what you need. There's lots of different companies that provide it. It ranges anywhere from your first 3 devices are free to $50 a device. Small companies, you don't need the $50 a device
Say,
option.
I'm not doing the $50.
Generally,
a
it's
device.
$5.
Please tell me I'm not doing the $50.
No,
a device.
you're not. You're paying like $3 or $4 a device.
Okay.
I mean, you can get, but also the versions. Small companies have this problem. They bought lots of different computers that are lots of different versions of it. There's Microsoft Home. There's Mac OS, and you could have 3 or 4 different versions of that.
Mhm.
And the control levels will vary based on what you have.
Okay.
But you can upgrade them and change them and put a new OS on it, and then you're good to go.
And an OS is an
Operating system.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
No geek talk. We don't do geek talk. So what are, sorry, like total, like where was I going here? Okay.
Too much geek talk for you.
Yeah, you did. You overloaded me on the geek talk.
I like what's your problem? What do you want the solution to be? I'll see you in an hour and I'll take care of it.
I do like that.
Yeah.
That works for me. So you kind of alluded to this a minute ago, and I mentioned it a little too. It's like some of this stuff is tech that only big companies used to be able to access, right?
Oh, used to. It used to be only really big companies, banks, people who are doing large things and large corporations in multiple locations would do this. And now anybody can do it. You can be a one-man band and you can still have all the same cloud support that they have.
That's amazing.
Yeah. And a lot of this got pushed faster than expected because of everyone was starting to work from home, but a lot of it already existed. It's just they're getting more traffic than they used to.
Well, I mean, I think that's true with all technology stuff. Like as the pandemic has gone along, anything that enables you to work from home, do something remotely, and if it's even tangentially attached to technology, their business has really taken off, right?
Yeah, Zoom would not exist the way it does today if it were not for the pandemic.
Yeah, so Zoom. Can we talk about Zoom for a second?
Yeah, Zoom's changed the world.
So I've had Zoom for years, right? And we used it with clients. We do still, before this, we had a lot of clients that like to meet on the phone. And we used free conference call to be able to share screens. But we did have clients that were moving to Zoom. Well, now almost everybody has moved to Zoom. But Zoom is coming out with a lot of new products.
Zoom's on the ball with this. I mean, they could have had all these products lined up in their development, just waiting for the work, their load to be high enough to be able to do the development for them. And now they can do whatever they want. So they can do tons of stuff. Teams is another one. Teams was not.
Wait. We haven't gone back to, we can talk about Teams. Let's talk about Zoom. You can now use Zoom as like a telephone system, right?
Completely. As a complete office system. You can have physical phones or just use your computer or the app on your phone.
That's amazing.
Yeah. And they've gone far with that and they're developing more and more.
What else do they have on the, I'm going to put you on the spot.
You're on the spot and all the stuff I read and I don't know who's doing what now.
I know you do spend a lot of time reading, don't you?
I think it's fun to know what everybody's up to. And like, I'm even know like the new chips that Mac came out with and the ARM chips that Microsoft's using and putting
I don't like that
software.
chip.
Yeah, there are problems with that chip. But like, and the rumors, because also you need to know if the rumors are, if someone's going to switch something, you got to be ready for that. Like if Zoom is going to switch some major thing on their platform, you need to know and tell your clients, yeah, we got to be ready for this because this update's going to be huge and either throw you off your game or give you some awesome new tool.
But we need to be prepared either way. Yeah. So one of the things that you told me the other day, so like I said, we use Surfaces and the ARM chip, which I have no idea what ARM stands for, but it does not play nicely with Dropbox.
At all.
No.
It is technically it is not compatible with the Dropbox. It's only compatible with the simple version.
Yeah. And so we have one computer. I thought I was doing the right thing here.
Yeah.
And I got the new Mac Daddy big Surface. And the first person in the company that had it hated it. And I couldn't figure out why. And you finally, like when you came on, you're like, well, it's the chip. It's not compatible. So yeah, I sent my computer to that person and that person sent me the big Mac Daddy worthless Surface. But one of the things you said is Surface is going to put that in all of their computers.
Well, it's a rumor.
It's a rumor.
It's a rumor. When Mac announced their new M1 chip, it was rumored that Microsoft would start doing that with their Surfaces. So it's not official yet, and we'll see what happens.
But it's good to know that that may happen in 3 to 4 months because it enables us, like we had a lot of discussions during all the Black Friday stuff of, do we need to kind of stock up on some computers?
Right. And if we know they're going to switch and you like those computers, maybe we should get a couple that'll last a year or two and then figure out the transition to something else. Or that then gives Dropbox the time to develop their software for the new ARM chip.
Please, Dropbox. Please. I have this worthless Surface. Okay, so we talked about Zoom and everything they're bringing on, and you brought up another company that's doing a bunch of development.
Well, Teams, Microsoft is Microsoft Teams, and that took off. That has been around actually, and I will admit that I had it. I just never used it. Why? And then all of a sudden this happened and realized this is an awesome tool and way better than I thought it was going to be.
Yeah, we pushed to Teams in the spring. I think we had started looking at it in like January, February, but really started using it. And it was a little disconcerting in the beginning.
Well, it was one of those tools that, why do I need it? What's this purpose? And then all of a sudden I went remote and you realize this thing is massively useful. And a lot of companies aren't going to go back. Teams is now like embedded into their workflow.
Well, the place where we struggled was, where is the information? Are we doing all our communication through the instant messaging on Teams? Some of it's going through email, some of that was a little disconcerting.
Everyone had that
we
transition.
had to work through that.
Yeah, it's like, are we talking on the phone? Am I calling you? Are we texting? What's going on?
Well, and one thing that we have discovered internally is that we like Teams for instant messaging, and we're fine with Teams for calling each other. In fact, one of the people, someone on our team this week was like, I said something about calling them and that she couldn't hear the phone. She was like, yeah, what, back when we used phones, since, I mean, we don't use phones anymore, right? Because we just call each other on Teams. But we don't like the way Teams works on video calls.
Well, Teams is more, I recommend Teams as an inward facing tool. Use it for the company, for your employees, but you don't face that to the public or your clients.
Well, even on the internal team calls, like if I was talking to Pam or Laura, I feel like the video on Teams is glitchy and it's a lot more stable on Zoom. And then there's also sometimes on Teams a problem with talking over each other.
There's a delay
mutes the other person or something. Yeah.
And that's also, everybody's different. Everyone likes different stuff. And that's one thing I'll do is I'll talk to whoever makes the decisions. What do you like? What do you not like? What's the scenario? And then recommend this tool or this tool. Well,
the other thing that you do that I like is you'll talk to the whole team, because let's face it, I'm bad about saying this is awesome and this is what we're using. Yeah, but end of discussion. And you've really talked to some of the people in our company and you've been like, but that doesn't work for them. That's not the way they work.
And I'm a data guy, so I've been doing surveys, like currently in the midst of a survey of how to use your computer and your computer setup and why, to figure out what works for them and what will work for everybody.
Yeah, like I found out that from you that a lot of the people on our team are using their Surface screen in addition to the two screens, which I don't use my computer that way. So it never occurred to me that they were doing it that way.
And it's really easy to get stuck in that. Like I use this way, everybody else does, but it doesn't always work that way. Like everyone uses it different. You give them something and they're going to figure out a new way to use it too.
But the great thing about it is that you have enough knowledge of everything that's out there and everything's on the market to say, if the vast majority of people use their technology this way, this is going to be the best piece of software. This is going to be the best solution. This is going to be the best app.
Yeah, I'll make the recommendations. And it's not my job to tell you have to do something and have to do something a certain way, because also all these systems are also designed to be flexible enough to make it comfortable for the user. And I'll give recommendations and points, or someone may call me, this doesn't work for me. And I'll say, why? And I was like, okay, well, you're doing it this way. Try doing it this other way. And they go, you can do that? It's like, yeah, just use this way and it might work for you better. And I'm like, oh, that was great. It worked. Everything's fine now.
There we go. Now we got it. Yeah. And I think that one of the things that I like about you and the way that you work, you're totally agnostic to the software. Like you're not, as much as you like Apple and Mac products, you're not Mac only.
No, I'm
and you're pretty agnostic. And I know that I've talked to you. One of the things we're looking at right now is a new password safe, because we have one that works for most of us, but it's kind of difficult for a couple of people on our team. And I know that like you'll go out and you'll do all the research. And so you'll come back and you'll say, okay, these are the 3 that I recommend. And you'll kind of do a demo for us of all of them and say,
and the why, because so-and-so likes this. And because most of you are doing it this way, this one does that. Or you have this security concern, this application will cover that concern. and also look at stuff and it's like, you're using this and you have this application you're using and you're paying this much for it and you're using 10% of its capability.
Well, isn't that kind of what everybody does?
A lot of people do. And like, I admit that I even did it. I'm actually looking at a new email provider. I use Google for my email, but I'm paying for Google, which includes all their suite of stuff, but then I'm also paying for the Microsoft 360 suite. And I'm only using Google for email. And I'm actually researching other options for that are email based only, which might be the same cost for me for an entire year what I'm paying Google a month right now.
Holy cow.
Yeah. So I'm looking at options, and I actually have the ability to I can test things out, do their free trials, see what works and doesn't work. And that means when someone comes to me and says, I'm only using Google for email and I'm not using the other stuff, I don't want to use Sheets, I don't want to do anything else, I'm paying, whatever they're paying per email a month, I can say, okay, well, these other options, this is just email. You don't get anything else with it but your email, but that's all you're going to use it for. That's all you need. And it's going to save you money.
However much a month or a year.
Yeah. And that's the thing. It's like, and like, I did go through your Outlook and your Exchange and found a bunch of email addresses that no one was using.
Oh, yeah.
That were like, do you want these? You're paying for them. And then we just close them out.
We got them out. Yeah. So I do like that. I one of the other things I like is that you're really proactive. So we were talking about my website one day and I said something about security and you're like, oh my gosh, I've already closed all these holes. And so I was on a webinar I was doing a workshop and they said, okay, you do need to check out something about your website. And it did this like whole kind of website thing. It looked at your SEO and it looked at all these different things and it gave you a little report. And so I got, a D on my SEO or something. And so I'm like going through and it got down to our security. We had 100%. It was the only place on this whole darn website evaluation that we passed, but it was because you're going in and you're fixing stuff that we didn't even know about.
Yeah. And it's the tools. So I recommend people use Squarespace or Wix and those kinds of things because they do most of it for you, but there are settings in there you have to tweak. And I just went and tweaked your settings and everything was fine.
And dude, I got an A on
right.
that part of the test. The rest of the test, not so much.
We can work on that.
Yeah. Okay. You really want to deal with my SEO?
Well, as I've done new pages for you, I actually have tweaked your SEO.
But that's not your bliss, right?
No, it's not my bliss. I don't like doing it. But when I'm in there and I notice something's a little off, I'll tweak it.
Because you were just kind of pinch hitting on that, right? Yeah. All right. So what else do people need to know as we're heading into our second lockdown? As we're all waiting for this the vaccine to come out. And it's going to help, but I do think there's been a seismic shift in the way we do business, and I think we're probably going to live in this hybrid environment of some from home and some at the office. What do people need to know, and what do they need to do moving forward? What's the most important stuff?
Biggest thing is don't overcomplicate it. People overcomplicate.
Technology is totally complicated,
but it doesn't need to be, and people usually they're scared of it, and they don't want to address it, or they go too far, or they think it's too expensive, and it's really not. It actually is designed to be a tool, not a hindrance. And if it's a hindrance, you're using the wrong product.
All right. So let's recap. When you start working with a company, you come in, you do an inventory, you set up MDM.
Well, whatever I do when I come in is have a conversation first and decide what they need.
To people?
I actually talk to people. Have a conversation. What are their pain points? What do they like? What do they not like? Because through the conversation, they may come up with something that they didn't realize they hated. And that one thing doesn't relate to these other things, or they don't think it does. And I'm like, well, if I fix that, it fixes the rest of your problems.
Look, it kind of snowballs and does all this.
Figure what the pain points are, and then come up with a custom plan. It's like, okay, you need MDM because you have these concerns, or maybe you need a password system that helps you share passwords better than you're doing now, or various other things, because everyone's custom. And then I'll go back and figure out the tools, give recommendations, and move on from there.
One of the things I like that as we've been working together, you have taught us. So I've been using Dropbox for 8 years, like long time. And you look at my Dropbox and you can totally tell. But I love that you go in and you talk about security a lot and how to lock down information, which we're always so concerned about because, we're holding client information. So we want to make sure that that's really as safe as humanly possible. And you really, every time you look at something, you're like, who absolutely needs this information and how can we get it to them? And who doesn't need to see this information?
Yeah, and we'll say I'm not a cybersecurity specialist. I'm not going to build you a firewall, but I can tell you which buttons to click in Dropbox to make sure the wrong people don't see something.
Right, and it's right. We're not talking about cybersecurity.
Yeah.
We're talking about kind of internal security and
it's almost access
and levels of access. Yeah,
and how to simplify that, because people do get confused. I just worked with somebody else who was so frustrated because everybody in the company could see everything in Dropbox, and they thought that's the only way it worked. And like, we need another, I need to use something else. Like, no, Dropbox will do it. We change this, and these people are all in this group they shouldn't be in. Let's take them out of that group, and let's create a new group that's the other people who can only have viewing permissions in these folders. And they're like, oh, you can do that? And I'm like, yeah. So it's basically just showing them how it works, and also them saying, well, I want these people to only have viewing permissions, but these people may change, but this group will never change. So it's like, okay, we created a group, and that group has access to these folders on certain set levels of permission, and they can add and remove people from that group as needed. And it just happens automatically.
Awesome.
So yeah, instead of changing 60 folders, they change one thing and it affects them all.
That's awesome. All right. So if people have questions, how do they get in touch with you?
They can check out my website, which is gk3consulting.com.
Okay.
Or email Gordon at gk3consulting.com.
So the theme here is gk3consulting.com.
gk3consulting.com. Get the conversation started, and it can be 30 minutes, it can be 5-minute conversation. And I do kind of like these are my problems, and this is what I want the solution to be, and I'll figure out the middle point, get you to approve the solution, and we move on.
That sounds awesome. All right. Well, Gordon, thank you so much for coming on today. So again, that's gk3consulting.com. If you want to get in touch with Gordon directly, it's Gordon at gk3consulting.com. All right.
All right. Thanks so much. It was fun.
Thanks. Bye.